So hey everyone, I'm excited to share kind of the go-to-market system that teams are paying upwards of $30,000 for. I twisted Tom's arm here and got him to kind of share that. And we're going to actually go through the real system, combining kind of what signals you can look for and then how do you actually execute on that. And this is not like generic. We're going to actually go screen share and walk through, and I'm going to have him share all the theories behind what he's setting up. And to give you some context on Tom, he runs a agency called Advanced Client. And they are one of the best go-to-market agencies. And I don't mean that lightly. Like, they just helped a company, one of their clients, actually get acquired by Salesforce recently. They generated 4.6 million in pipeline for them and 447,000 in closed won revenue. And so those are just insane numbers for most agencies and things people dream of, even for their own kind of outbound processes. And so Tom and Lewis, his partner, are true experts in the space. So I wanted to get them on and actually have them walk through what does a real go-to-market system look like, not something people are kind of spewing out or something that people have strung together with Claude. What does a real professional go-to-market system look like? So Tom, if you want to kind of give yourself an overview, I'd love to kind of share your experience with the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've done a pretty kind job of introducing me there. So thanks, Jack. Yeah, just to sort of reiterate there, my name's Tom Grainger. I'm the co-founder at Advanced Client. We work with some of the fastest growing, the most exciting B2B companies on earth to build and install their go-to-market and RevOps systems. Essentially, our philosophy is that the modern day rep has been burdened with sort of too much admin. They've got too many tools, too many logins, too much that sort of takes away from their ability to go ahead and produce revenue, which is the real reason that you brought them on in the first place. So essentially what our system does is it strips out that admin and then turns it into a repeatable automation so that companies can scale their pipeline, they can scale revenue, and then they can scale their profit without having to scale their headcount.
Yeah, I love it. And that's the pitch. Like, I mean, I think we've done like 1,800 demos in the last kind of, call it 18 months
Yep.
for White Whale, for Signals. And like 90% of the teams we talk to, from like CROs and heads of sales and that kind of stuff, they're all like, yeah, I just want my reps to sell. Like, a lot of times reps are in there like researching, they're going through LinkedIn, they're like spinning their wheels when they should just be like calling people and sending
Yep.
emails and thinking about how to actually win deals, and not like should they be updating the CRM and going and researching accounts and reading through earnings calls and that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So we'll go into kind of the system here, and really I want to cover kind of three big things, right? First is, how do we think about signal-based outbound, right? So finding which signals account, which signals actually matter. How do we actually nail timing with these accounts, right? Because that's the biggest thing in sales is like, well, if you nail the right time with an account, you're probably going to close them, right? If you don't have the right time with an account, you're never going to close them. So can we help predict what that good timing is and, make that odds best as possible? Second, we'll kind of talk about how the best teams are really automating their go-to-market without kind of losing that human edge, which I think is becoming really important now. I think we've all seen the downfall of kind of these AI SDRs and fully automated campaigns. So how do we automate as much as we can to remove that kind of legwork that you were talking about while not losing that human touch? And I think third, how do we think about having the rep just wake up and sell, right? No prospecting, no admin. They just have their kind of, hey, here are the 15 accounts you should go after. Here's exactly why. Here's a message maybe teed up. Think about how you want to tweak this and go. And so those are the three big things I want to cover. But I think best place to start is let's jump into kind of how we're thinking through signals. And I think we're going to run through the example, Tom, of your own kind of go-to-market
Let's do
workflow.
it.
So all the signals will be kind of selling your own business. And so
Yep.
we can walk through other examples of clients. I think that would be helpful to kind of paint the picture here.
Yep.
But I'll pull up the White Whale account that we have rolling for you. And so here, for those who aren't familiar, some of the people listening will be our customers, and they'll be thinking about how do we actually action the signals that they're getting in the platform. And for some people, this is the first time you're seeing what a custom signal is. And so I'll jump over to kind of the foundational part of what we're looking at here. And Tom, maybe you want to explain kind of how you thought through some of these signals or why some of
Yep.
these signals matter, and then
Yep.
maybe what you've kind of set up here to look for.
So essentially, what we found is that when we work best with a company is when they're going through a sort of transformational phase. So either they have just started to look at building out their go-to-market, or they've been building out their go-to-market and they've realized that things aren't working exactly as they wanted to. and they're looking to change that up, or they brought on a new hire to revolutionize things. So all of those sort of key moments are perfect for us to come in and have a chat with them about what they've been doing, what they plan to do, and then how we would fit into that situation. So that's essentially the thought process behind how we built out signals in White Whale for ourselves.
Okay. And so essentially what you're trying to do is like, how do we cut down this universe of like, I guess you guys primarily focus just on like software companies. Is that your kind of bread and butter? Or can you go across all different types of industries?
We can go across any types of industry, but really
Yeah.
our bread and butter is SaaS companies. That's most of the companies that
Yeah.
we work with are SaaS.
Okay. Because when I think about this, and this is something I commonly say on demos too, is like, if you have an industry, even like SaaS, right, for you guys, okay, the account list strategy before is probably like go into like an Apollo or Zoom Info and search SaaS, right? I mean, maybe you put in some filters like
Yep.
10 to 50 employees and you get back 10,000 results. And you're like, okay, cool. Like, time to send a campaign. You tee up your Instantly account with 50,000 people in it and you
Yep.
send out a message. I think that was kind of the old way. And so I guess what you're saying here, put very simply, is like, how do we take that list of 50,000 or 100,000 or 200,000 companies that you'd find in like an Instantly or Zoom Info or a contact database and say, well, which ones are actually building out their sales process now? Which ones
Yep.
are hiring new leadership? Which ones are thinking about how to rework their process? And then obviously that's a great time for you to get in the mix and show your expertise off. Is that kind of the overarching idea?
I think that's the best way to describe it. Yeah.
Okay. Because I guess what I'm looking at here is like, and for people who haven't seen this and what custom signals are, is like, it's just a question. It's a question about what makes a good prospect. So like good prospects for Tom and advanced client, like new head of sales, new CRO. They're the people who sit there and think we need to rework our outbound first kind of 90 days. New RevOps or sales ops leader. They're the ones who are going to sit there and look at the process and go, this is completely broken. Now those are kind of leadership changes. Those are pretty standard, level signals that everyone has. I think where it gets much more interesting is into signals that maybe no one has,
Hmm.
where it's like all sales reps actually creating their own outbound messaging. The indicator of a process that is not strict, right? Is not systematized, is not thought through, where reps are just sending random messages all day, right? There's accounts that have that. Same thing on account lists, right? Our reps just kind of going free will hunting a bunch of random accounts and crossing and all that kind of stuff. So think about beyond kind of these standard signals. Well, these signals also could indicate that a process is broken or a process needs improvement, including, I mean, there's a ton of other detail. New go-to-market strategy
Yep.
announced, new go-to-market strategy plans. I think the biggest thing is like, not that any one of these signals really matters, right? It's great to know that they're announcing a new go-to-market strategy. Much better when you have 2, 3, 4, 5 of these signals happening at the same time.
Yep.
That's kind of how we think through signals. But I know we spent a lot of time kind of thinking and talking about what signals are and what you guys are looking for. I think premise is like, how do we find companies where their sales process is potentially changing or adjusting or going through a motion that is new? Um, and so I guess, Tom, when we think about that, that's kind of the setup you guys have gone through. Then what happens, right? Then what's going on here? What are we looking at?
So, we've got the signals in there. Now we're essentially looking for companies that are showing those specific signals. So essentially companies that have matched that. Are they hiring? Are they bringing on, have they just had a massive change in the sales systems? Are they designing a new go-to-market system? Are they hiring reps at an incredibly high rate? When those signals are triggered, that's when it's pulling it into the accounts list here. And we can then see companies ranked by their score, by the signals that we're tracking, and by the priority that we've ranked those signals on. We can see them listed out here in the accounts.
Okay. And then I guess what are you doing with these accounts? I mean, you have for any of these accounts, you're getting a ton of kind of information, including
Yep.
like the story that connects all the signals and all this. I guess what is this used for? And I guess how are you guys using this in your kind
Yep.
of workflows?
So I think this is a good time for me to sort of share my screen and
Yeah, let's do it.
work through the Clay system that we've built out to take all of this amazing signal information and then turn it into something that we can actually use to outreach. So just gonna pull up my
Do it.
screen now and we'll dive in.
I'm excited to see this. This is I think the first time I've seen this fully end to end.
Oh yeah.
I know you've implemented this a couple times, but I'm excited to really see it.
So
Selfishly, very, very selfishly.
So what we're looking at here for people that don't know, this is Clay. So essentially the best way of describing Clay is like Google Sheets on steroids. So it's a classic sort of table format that we're looking at here, where we can pull in data from a variety of different sources. But for this example here, what we've used is a webhook that is triggered when a new signal is fired on White Whale for an account that is relevant for us. It's triggered on White Whale, and then it is sent over into Clay for us to actually be able to use. So we can set up this webhook between Clay and White Whale automatically so that it runs without us needing to do anything. We don't need to pull this in manually. It's not like a CSV that we need to download and upload. This is happening based upon automations that we set up. So we can set this up to happen daily. We can set this up to happen weekly, however a company wants it to happen. For us, we like to do it a little bit more frequently so we can get signals really as they're happening and we can get them when they're hot. So it's pulling in the signal right here. And then what we're doing is we're sending this over to another table. So we're linking these tables up. And essentially what you can see here is the different signals that are coming through. So what we've done here is we've taken two examples from the list that you saw when Jack was sharing his screen. We can see Try Jeeves and we can see the level AI here. So we can see for each of those accounts, we have different signals. So we've got 3 signals for Try Jeeves and 3 signals for the level here as well. We can see the individual
Tom,
signals.
I guess kind of one thing I'm curious about, and I think that might be helpful, is like,
Sure.
you mentioned 3 signals. I think
Yes.
most people are going to be familiar with like one signal, like a funding round, right? I think everyone's kind of familiar with that signal, but like, what is 3 signals and why does that matter? Obviously, I'm asking that because I already know the question, but I think for other people, they won't necessarily understand why do you have 3 signals? Isn't one signal good enough?
Yeah, that's a great point. So essentially, one signal is a level of indication that something is happening within a business. If we get 3 signals, there are individual signals that are tracking from those custom signals that we've built out. That's a really strong indicator to us that a company is in a very strong position to be able to leverage our services. So it's essentially increasing the account value of that account by having more signals come through. And what I'm going to do is I'll run you through what those individual signals are, what it actually means, and then creating the overarching why should we actually reach out now. So pulling together all of the context of it. So instead of just having one signal, so for example, they've just hired a new CRO, we might have hired a new CRO, hiring a bunch of SDRs, and have just announced that they're changing up their go-to-market platform or changing up their go-to-market systems. So for us, they're 3 key indicators that a company is in a great position for us to work with. And again, when we're working with clients, this is where we're pulling in all of that data from looking at their sales calls, looking at their closed won deals, and looking at the specific things that have aligned, how those stars have aligned for that to cross the line and become a closed won deal, pulling in those custom signals, and then building out this system so that we can replicate that across other deals.
But that makes sense. Okay. So like for other people, they could be like looking for like all the companies that just opened a new mine in Australia and had a safety incident, right? Where you can combine these kind of different factors together. And one signal is good, right? Like hiring SDRs, like maybe they're building a sales process, but when you see like hiring SDRs plus new leadership plus someone's hired in to build out the sales process, I think the thing that does is it tells a kind of a broader story. It gives you the bigger picture that you can actually make a strategic pitch to, that you guys can actually do your relevant outbound and campaigns and all that kind of stuff towards.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense to me. So you pull in the data from us as new signals are fired. You see what other signals are on that account. That gets dumped into here into this Clay table, which gets cleaned and shows each of the signals with the sources and links and details and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yep. And now what we're doing in Clay is taking that information, because it's all, it's great having this information, but how do we actually action this? So what we do here is we take all of these signals, we pull them to another table, and this is where we dedupe the row. So essentially, instead of having individual signals showing up as individual rows, we've combined them into one row here. So we can see signal 1, we can see signal 2, and we can see signal 3. And what we're able to see is the sum, so the title of that signal. So we can see a new SDR hire. We can see the summary of that. So pulling all of this information from White Whale, we can see the justification for why that signal triggered and all of the information around it. And then we can also see the source of that signal as well. So if I just open this up, you should be able to load in and see that we can see that this company Jeeves here, they're looking for new salespeople in those individual geographies there. And we can see that again in the summary. So it's summarizing all of that information. So now we've got 3 signals that are pulled in here. Okay. If I move along a little bit further, we can see why reach out now. So what we're getting here is a summary of those 3 signals. We can see all of that come together, and we can see that Jeeves here is now running an aggressive LATAM go-to-market expansion. They're actively hiring at least 4 sales roles across those different geographies, and basically they're in a great position here for us to be able to reach out to them. So we've got the 3 sources, we've got the 3 signals. That's now increasing the account score, and that's increasing the why should we reach out now score as well. So essentially we have a justification to reach out to them. So when reps reach out to them, they've got context that they can use in those conversations. So that's been checked off. We know that they're qualified. Now the goal here is to find people and then action upon that data. So if we move over into this sheet right here, what you can see is we've now pulled individual people at those companies that are relevant for us to reach out to. We've also pulled in the signals here as well. And this is super important because we've got the people, we know that they're relevant, we've got their job titles right here, we know where they're located as well. We can see the company that obviously that they work for. We've got all the relevant information, their LinkedIn profile. We've even gone and built out a waterfall here so we can pull in their email addresses. So this is taking in multiple data providers so that we can maximize the chance of finding their work email so we can actually go ahead and reach out to them. And then we're doing the same thing for their phone numbers as well. So what we're doing here is basically increasing the chance that we find valid contact information so we can use all of those signals and go and reach out to them. Then what we're doing here, and this is where it gets really cool, we've got the why reach out now. And basically what we've done is we've built out a specific prompt within Clay using ChatGPT that takes into account all of the context, all of the information from those signals, the why reach out now. And what it's doing here is it's generating an email sequence that's completely custom to the actual person, but based upon specific formats and specific sort of templates that we have that we know are successful, and then produces a completely custom email. So we can see for this person here, Andreas, what we've done here, and to sort of look into the philosophy behind our cold emails, what we have here is an insight. So we can see based upon those signals that Jeeves is pushing really hard in Latin America. And they've got sales hires in Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, and Argentina. So what this allows us to do is create a completely personalized insight. And this is not just a generic insight. And this is where I think a lot of people go wrong with signals and personalization. They'll do something like, oh, I saw that you went to Harvard, or I saw that you've got a Stanford MBA or something like that, or I can see that you're based in St. Louis, and then, go whatever team is in St. Louis. What we're doing here is pulling out a highly relevant and well-researched personal line here. We've gone and looked that they've scaled massively in LATAM. They're hiring across those geographies. That shows to the person reading it that this person has done research and that they're coming into this with a perspective. And again, here we're coming in with another perspective because this is also a completely custom line. When teams add account executives and SDRs across new markets, we typically find that rep admin, patchy handoffs usually creep in. So we're taking the situation that they're in, we're taking the pain points that we solve as a business, and then we're creating this custom line based upon their situation. So instead of it just being a generic sales email where we're doing this based upon assumptions, we're doing this based on hard evidence that we have, and also our past history of working with businesses just like this. Then what we do is we put in our offer. So, we build go-to-market systems that solve the specific problem that we've pointed out here. We have a small case study here as well. We don't want to bore them with stats, but we want to show them a sort of key indicator here that we know what we're doing and that we're able to achieve the result. And then what we have here is a soft call to action at the bottom. So that's the philosophy behind how our emails work here. And
Interesting. And I think that might be a good point to ask. And I'm actually curious. The soft call to action, because I've noticed that in a couple of, we had a customer at a large company, 2 enterprise reps opened 7 enterprise deals in 2 weeks, some crazy statistics.
Mm-hmm.
They were also doing a soft call to action. It looked kind of similar to yours. I guess, what are you sending, and why aren't you asking for 15 minutes or 30 minutes of their time? What is that call to action actually doing and what are you giving them?
Yeah. So, I mean, we found from sending sort of, hundreds of thousands of emails, doing, thousands and thousands of calls and sort of operating across multiple different sales teams and the outreach that they're doing is that a soft call to action is just going to increase the chance of getting a response because there is less friction involved. If you are reaching out to someone cold for the first time that hasn't heard of you before, that maybe has not seen your marketing or anything like that, there could be several reasons. Maybe they're having a busy day. People are very busy. Maybe they've just eaten lunch and they're tired after lunch. Okay. Having high friction in your emails is going to decrease the chance that you go ahead and book in a call. By having a soft call to action, what that allows is the psychology of that person is triggered to say yes easier because there's less friction involved in that. So they can just say, yeah, sure, send over that thing. Then what we can do is send over a lead magnet, whether it is a video walkthrough, maybe it's something custom that we've built out. With AI now, it's a lot easier to create custom docs and custom sort of walkthroughs. Maybe it's even just a one pager, or maybe it's just an email with a little bit more information because we've got that soft yes. Now we can explain a little bit more and then we can go for the close. So once we've got that permission to go ahead and send over whatever resources that is, we can then go ahead and say, look, here's the resource, here's my calendar, here's a few times next week when I'm free that's specifically in your time zone. Would you like to have a call to have a chat about this instead of going for the ask straight away?
So you aren't going for the ask straight away. You're sending some sort of like document or report or analysis or case study, some sort of, I guess like the way I'm kind of thinking of it now, I'm listening to what way you say it, is like instead of asking for the meeting directly, you ask them if they want to know more or they would want to hear something that could actually educate them or be of value. It's like a small little toss of value. It's like, hey, you want me to analyze your website and see how I can make it convert better?
Yep.
And it's like you don't sell the actual website conversion. Like you don't do the work for them. You just say, hey, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Do you want me to fix it? Or you want to hop on a call to show you how I'd fix it? And then that baits them all the way in. Okay.
Exactly.
So not asking for time, giving them something of value. That's not your full offer, right? It's not like the whole shebang. You aren't saying, hey, I'll set you up a go-to-market workflow tomorrow and go hands off. You're saying, hey, here's how I'm thinking about roughly setting this up. Just to show you're an expert. And then once they say, oh yeah, that looks interesting, let's talk about it, then you book them to a call. Okay.
And what I'm going to say here is a slight contradiction of what I just talked about as well, because I talked about friction as, if you ask for a call straight away, it increases the friction. Well, that is true. Once we've got a yes response from someone, we almost want to add a little bit of friction to this process as well. And the reason behind this is if someone has asked for a lead magnet or a document or a resource or whatever we're sending them, when we send that over to them, there's a little bit of friction involved in them opening it, looking at it, viewing it, watching it, whatever that may be. Because if they then go through that friction of accessing that resource, watching the video, whatever that may be, that to us is a really strong indicator that they have a sort of high propensity to move forward into having a call. They're much more likely to jump on a call and be qualified as well, because if they're watching a video about the solution to their problem, it's a strong indicator that they have that problem in the first place. So there is sort of two elements of friction, reducing it on getting the yes, but then sort of turning it up a little bit once someone has responded, making them go through a little bit of a loop so that when we know that they've booked on a call, that call is going to be as qualified as possible.
Okay, so it's something like I have another team I was talking to, and I thought it was an interesting example actually of like what is a potential lead magnet.
Yeah.
Like in this case, like they're saying like, okay, they were sending out emails and saying, hey, do you want 25 accounts that look good? Right. And then you get an email back that says, yeah, here's your 25 accounts. But like, it doesn't give you the full shebang. It just gets you enough to be like, yeah, here's my email. Like, I'm kind of curious. So, okay, you guys are doing something similar with like a case study or some sort of format like this, where you're getting them to opt in, adding a little bit of friction to qualify them, but then like they actually get something valuable. They don't get everything.
Exactly.
In this case, they get 25 leads, or in your case, they get they get a good case study, but it doesn't tell them how to actually implement it per se.
It's normally the solution to a specific part of what we solve. So, we have a service that encompasses, multiple different things. The lead magnet at this point could be just an element of that, and the solution, the workflow, just to sort of prove that we know what we're talking about and we're competent.
Okay, cool. So that's on the email philosophy. So, okay, so you take the signal comes in from White Whale, right?
Yep.
This account just had a new CRO plus
Yep.
this and this and this. It looks really good right now for the reasons that you want it to look for. Okay. That account flows in your flow. You analyze the signals, right? So you have all the signal data spread out, the sources, the quotes, the details, the facts. You blend all of that to go find the people. Once you have the people from Clay, it looks like you're running like the Clay people finder. Was that the flow there?
Yep.
And then you're turning that using AI to do like a kind of first draft or a first pass of each one of the emails in the three. It looked like a 3-step sequence. Was that the process? Okay. Sorry, we just wanted to go through that. And
No, of course, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want to pull back up Clay, I think we can kind of run through the rest of this. So it goes, you have the 3 emails now. So they're each defined, they're each completely personalized. And I've seen that too work where it's like the email format is, I noticed this, or like, I think this is something that is of interest. This is what you guys are working on. Here's what you're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the common problems people face when they do that thing. Here's how we can solve that. And then the lead magnet is essentially some sort of kind of partial solve to that, or solves a very narrow piece of that puzzle.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly that. So now, we've got all this information, we've distilled it down, we've built out the philosophy, we've installed this ready to go. So how do we then action that data? So we send the data 3 different places. So we've got instantly, we've got HeyReach, and then we're sending it over to our CRM. Now that we've got the messages set up, we need to actually go and action them and send them in different places. So we send all of this data to 3 different places. We've got firstly sending it to Instantly, then we're sending it to HeyReach, and then we're sending it to Attio, which is the CRM. So if you're not aware, Instantly is an email sequencer that allows us to send emails to the different prospects. HeyReach is the same thing, but for LinkedIn, and then we're pushing it to Attio, and I'll walk through specifically what we're doing in Attio with that data as well. But as you can see here, we have set this up. We've completely mapped everything here. So all of the work emails, who this person is, their name, their last name, their company name, their website, all of this information completely and fully mapped into Instantly. And then also those specific emails that we generated as well as custom variables. And this is where it becomes really cool, because if I just pull up this specific campaign here, so we built out a White Whale campaign specifically for this demonstration. What you're looking at here is the actual copy that we put in an email. And you might be thinking, Tom, what the hell is this? It just says email 1. Well, what this is a custom variable. And what this allows us to do is to propagate and to map that AI generated email that we built out within Clay directly into Instantly, so that every email we're sending is completely unique, it's completely personalized, and it's completely automated as well. So we're seeing this as like an evergreen campaign. The way that we see this is as supporting agents for a rep. So we're not looking to replace a rep with building out these email campaigns. We're not looking to do this at a really high scale, especially for high average contract value deals. We're looking to do this very specifically, and we're looking to support the rep as they move through a cadence. So we can see here that we're sending out this email. This is that email that I read out when I walked you through the philosophy. And it's the same here for step 2 and step 3. And then we configure here, how often do we want to send that? What is the cadence going to look like there? And we're using this as a supporting feature. We're doing the exact same thing in HeyReach, where we've built out a campaign that then sends a connection request. When someone answers, we're sending them a message on HeyReach as well. And then also we're sending this over to our CRM. So we use Attio for our CRM, but we can do this in Salesforce, in HubSpot, in whatever you guys are using. And essentially we're sending all of that data that we've built out and we've distilled down in Clay into Attio here. So we can see the prospect, we can see their emails, their phones, we can see the specific signals, we can see the why reach out now, we can see that it's already been sent to Instantly, so we know that they've received an email from us. So this now gives us a really good opportunity to do what human reps do really, really well, which is pick up the phone and give them a call. So we've built out Trellis directly on top of our CRM, and that allows us to then go and call up anybody in this list. We can do this power dialing. But again, we know that this person has received an email from us. We know that they've received a link. So they're more likely to be aware And we've also got all of this beautiful context on why we should actually reach out, so that when we do go ahead and make that call, we can jump on a call and give someone context instead of running them through a generic script, so that they're much more likely to trust you. You know, you're going to win or lose a cold call within the first 10 seconds of someone listening to you. So if you can get that context out there and you can say, look, I can see all of this stuff is happening at the business. This is my perspective on it. This is typically what happens in this situation. I'm curious on your thoughts. And you can have an actual conversation. You can qualify them more, and then you can push them to booking in the call. So that's how we're seeing the sort of philosophy behind the outbound system that we're building.
Okay, so you have some sort of automation which is scanning your market, right? Identifying the right accounts to go after.
Yep.
And then you guys are essentially taking the philosophy of like emails, LinkedIn notes, that should be kind of air cover, right? You're just kind of making sure that those go out the door.
Exactly.
And that way, when you're a sales team, I know you guys have people that do calls and stuff for you guys, but like when your people get in to go, hey, I'm going to go make a call, right? I'm going to wake up in the morning. What do I do, right? They're jumping into ADIO. The emails have already been sent, right? Because you guys have spent the time to kind of tune that in. And then they're spending the time to actually make a call and say, hey, I saw this, this, and this. I noticed you guys are expanding to Latin America. You probably are facing this problem. Is that right? And then that's the conversation they're having, where it's, instead of kind of being a generic pitch, the real secret sauce that you guys have is everything is very, very granular. And that's why this system works better than just kind of a generic pitch. Is that the general gist?
That's it. That's exactly it. That most companies that we speak to are just running generic scripts, and they're basing this upon assumptions that they have. So they will call up a company and they will give them assumptions based upon conversations they've had previously. And then they use that call as a way to do some qualification to find out what's going on. But essentially you're wasting the prospect's time here. And especially if they're not in a situation where it's relevant for them to buy. 3% of your market is ready to buy at any one time. What we're building out here is a system where there isn't an assumption. We know, because of the data that we get from White Whale, that these specific things are happening in a company. So when our reps reach out, there is context, there is no assumptions, and there is sort of evidence-backed findings that they can use on this call, so they can come with a perspective on how to solve those pain points instead of trying to find those pain points on the call and then trying to solve them. It's all about making the prospect feel as wanted as possible, and also making them feel special, and also making them see you as an expert in your market as well.
Okay. And I guess the thing that I'd be really curious about is, I'm sure I could figure out how to do like ChatGPT and like push this into a campaign. I guess, what is the way you guys think about this uniquely? Like, what is the way you guys are actually able to convert so much more than like I feel like every agency is using Clay and probably doing some sort of similar workflow. And maybe it's not as researched, maybe it's some like generic kind of campaigns. But like, what is the secret sauce that allows you guys to actually convert so much pipeline? Like, why is that occurring?
Yeah. I honestly put it down to the intelligence that we get from you guys, from White Whale. I know that probably sounds like it's
totally
like
teed up.
Teed up or something, but it is true. I mean, that's what we're showing you here, is the data that we get from White Whale is so high quality. It's, there's sources, it's backed. We can manually verify everything if we need to, but we don't need to because it's so good. But that gives us the edge in our go-to-market to sort out a bunch of the back end, to give our reps context, to build out other systems like the air cover system with Instantly and with HeyReach, to give those reps the best opportunity to convert every single conversation they're having, every single email that they've sent out, every single message on LinkedIn into qualified pipelines, so that they're not wasting time doing admin, doing research. They can wake up 9 a.m., they can get on their computer and they think, okay, now we can just go and work on deals. What we're typically finding, especially as in the higher average contract value spaces, is that decision-making in companies is getting dragged out longer and longer. The buying cycle is getting longer. The decision-making committee is getting bigger and bigger. So now reps have to be smarter about how they go about deals. How do they keep momentum in deals? How do they bring together different parts of a company? How do they get through procurement, through legal, everything? There is so much a rep needs to think about, but that's all they should be thinking about. They shouldn't be thinking about all of the stuff in the back end. We solve that. with Clay and with Whitewell, giving them the context so that they can make that initial introduction.
That makes sense. I mean, because like if you think about what happens when a rep has this system, because I mean,
Yep.
like in the early days of our business, like it was, I was the sales rep, and I'm still the sales rep, but like we were doing a lot of outbound, and like you wake up and you're like, okay, I'll have a list of accounts, or like maybe I'm on LinkedIn or something, like
Yeah.
you don't know where to start, right? You have to figure out like every day where you're starting or where you're hunting or which account you're going to pick. And then you go do either some research or no research and then like start blasting out messages. But I think what's interesting here is like, imagine how much more quality work you could do if you literally just woke up, the account research was already handled. Like I'm just
Yep.
imagining like I hop into your guys' CRM, all I have to do is
Yep.
make calls and read a paragraph of why I'm calling this person. And
Exactly.
then now you can just like spend all your time strategizing how to get in that door, right? Like, do you go visit their office? Do you
Yep.
send them another email? Do you follow up with someone else on the team? Like now you can actually play the game of sales rather than just like, who I'm going to call today or who am I going to
Exactly.
email?
It's almost like in Iron Man when he wakes up and like everything is sorted for him and he just walks into his suit and like then he's flying off somewhere. That's how I'm seeing it. And what it means for an organization is that instead of them having to scale because of the limitations of the system that they have having to scale with, increasing headcount, they can now focus on making their reps better and getting more out of an individual rep, scaling with a leaner team and just getting more pipeline and more profit off the back of it.
And I'm going to ask something that's totally selfish for me. Because we're starting to think about this too. Is as we go beyond, like I think the sales case is really clean. Like your reps wake up, they just do like one or two things. They're calling, they're researching, they're being very thoughtful. You remove essentially everything that isn't them just being strategic sales reps.
Yep.
On the marketing side, I know you guys rip with your ABM. What is the secret there? I've seen so many posts and like the stats. I don't remember what it was, like $90 per demo or something stupid, some stupidly low number.
Yep.
What is the secret there? Like, what is the back end of that offer?
Yeah. That's a great question. Maybe we have to do that in another video, but I can give you an overarching view because it's similar to the outreach that we're doing. So essentially, pulling in amazing signals on accounts that we're tracking, or if we already know that these are our key accounts because of research that we've done, using Whitewell to track signals on them. So it's not just new accounts that are coming in. We know that these are the key 100 accounts that we need to go after. We've got them in Whitewell. We're tracking them. When signals come through, then we can then push them into Clay. And then using the Clay and the sort of ads feature in Clay now, we can make sure we've got all the relevant information. We can push them into a custom audience, and then we can run ads to them. So, and then from there, we can build out completely custom landing pages for every single account. If it's an account that's worth $1 million to sign, we can build out an entire funnel specifically for that account because it's worth it. We know that we've got all this information. We know that it's worth spending X amount of ads dollars on them because of those signals that we've got. And then we can build out the resources to convert them into a deal, and then we could also look at, do we send them gifts? Do we send someone out to their office? Do we, send them a mariachi band to go into their, whatever it is, like something to get their attention? Do we send their CEO like a box of Cohibas or something? You know what I mean? We can think of a cadence there depending on the budget that a company has and build that out. But it's a similar system, but instead of looking for new company signals here, we've already got the sort of key accounts that we know we're going after. We're monitoring them, and then we can just hit them with as much like artillery as possible.
Do you think for some of your kind of bigger clients, because I know some of the names of them, do you think that it's the best process is running sales and marketing at the same accounts? Or do you think like you separate that out and you have like your sales flow and your marketing flow? Or are you like saying like, these are our top 100 based on the ones that are in market now based on the signals. We're running ads to them. We're having the SDRs call them. Like, what does that look like? How are you?
I honestly think the best companies that we work with, because we can't change, sometimes a company has an internal structure that we can't change. We do the best that we can. The best companies that we work with are the ones where sales and marketing are completely integrated. As a rep, there is nothing better than knowing that you have marketing backing you up with the firepower that you need. They're hitting those prospects that you're going out and outreaching with great advertisement, with, they're at all of the conventions that they need to be. They're shaking hands with people. They're getting their face. They're getting their name there. They're handing out business cards, whatever that may be. When those two are synced up together, the fastest growing teams have these integrated, and they have this down to an absolute science.
Beautiful. Okay, that was what I was really curious about because I've heard of a couple people doing that and it
Yep.
working really well. And I figured that was a large part of what you guys were actually setting up on the back end. It's just like,
Yep.
how do we run everything in the same direction, be really strategic about it, make sure we're spending ad dollars in the right place, and then make sure we're spending reps time on the right accounts. Okay,
Yep.
cool. Anything else you think would be important? Any other sauce that you think is really relevant to give out? I really appreciate it. I think that's very helpful. I'm excited to share this with all of our customers. It's going out in our customer newsletter just so they can see a true kind of professional implementation of what our software can do. Because there's so many ways you can slice and dice a sales strategy once you have great accounts. It's like you can go visit them. You can do your current process. You can be generic. You can be very specialized. So I wanted to show off what a truly well-working machine does. And obviously, like the stats you guys have are just bonkers. So, to the extent people want to copy that, to the extent people want to work with you if they don't fully understand how it works,
Yep.
this is a pitch. Go work with Tom. Tom is a great guy. I've known Tom for way too long. But yeah, thanks for sharing this, Tom. It's been very, very helpful.
Of course. Thanks for having me on, Jack. Really, really enjoyed it.
All right, brother. I will talk to you. See ya.
Cheers.